In Europe during World War II, many people looked the other way while terrible things happened. They pretended not to know that their neighbors were being taken away and locked in concentration camps. They pretended not to hear their cries for help. The Nazis killed millions of Jews and others in the Holocaust. If everyone had stood together at the first sign of evil, would this have happened? The Holocaust was a period in history at the time of World War II, 1939 to 1945, when millions of Jews were murdered because of who they are. Stand up for what is right is even if others don't follow your thoughts and your beliefs. Society today tells us the terrible things that happened during World War II and the bad and crucial events that happened. As a culture, we must stand up for what is right without waiting for someone to join you. Eve Bunting teaches us to stand up for what they think is right without waiting for others to join them. Because it only takes one hero to make a difference in this world. Terrible Things by Eve Bunting. Until the terrible things came, Little Rabbit saw the terrible shadows before he saw them. They stopped at the edge of the clearing and the shadow bolted out the sun. But the terrible things had brought their terrible nets and they flung them high and caught the birds and carried them away. Why did the terrible things want the bird? Asked the little rabbit. What's wrong with feathers? We must not ask, Big Rabbit said. The terrible things don't need a reason. Just be glad it wasn't us they wanted. Now there were no birds to sing in a clearing, but life went on almost as before, until the day terrible things came back. The little rabbit heard the thump of their terrible feet. They came into sight, but the terrible things swung their terrible nets higher than the squirrels and could run and wider than the squirrels could leap, and they caught them all and carried them away. But why did the terrible things take them away? Asked little rabbit asked. Do the terrible things want the clearing for themselves? Until the day the terrible things came again, but the terrible things threw their terrible nets down in the depths, and they dragged up the dripping frogs and shimmering fish and carried them away. A nervous silence filled clearing, but life went on almost as usual until the day the terrible things came back. Little Rabbit smelled their terrible smell before they came into sight. By now, he knew that the terrible things didn't need a reason. Little Rabbit saw the terrible gleam of their terrible eyes the, through the forest darkness. Help! They screamed. Somebody help! But there was no one left to help. If we, if only we creatures had stuck together, it could have been different. Sadly, Little Rabbit left the clearing. He'd go tell the other forest creatures about the terrible things. He hoped someone would listen.